Today, today's speaker came as a recommendation from Joanna, who invites all the speakers for C6. And after Stacey spoke there, she said, hey, she's too good to keep to ourselves. Cam would appreciate the value that she offers. And so I reached out to Stacey and I'm delighted to have her here today. Stacey comes from San Diego, and she really understands the head game of performance, both in terms of job seeking and once you get to be on the job. She's the CEO of a peak performance execution company. She is a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming. She's a student of the art of negotiation. She is a DISC certified assessment administrator. She understands personality and attitude and communication and how those help you perform getting a job and keeping a job and being an effective peak performer on the job. And she's got great value to share with us today about how to make sure what's in our head does not keep us from finding a job. Please help me give a warm welcome to Stacey McKibbin on empowering your job search, getting unstuck. Welcome, Stacey.
Wow, me running out on stage. Yay! Excited to be here. So excited to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I was sitting out on my back porch and I was really contemplating this idea of getting unstuck and what it meant to really move beyond some of those self-limiting beliefs that we sometimes encounter in our lives. And my son, very precocious, comes bounding out of the back porch and he says, hey, Mom, when's your birthday? I'm like, nice job, buddy. Way to prepare. It's September 28th. He goes, no, the year. I'm like, ugh. All right, 1975. And he goes, whoa, you were born in the 1900s? My turn. Whoa, don't ever say that again. You're grounded, right? I tease. But it hit me. I was like, I was born in the 1900s. And you know who else was? Little names like Dale Carnegie, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, right? Jim Rohn, the greats of the time. And I started to reflect on some of the things that they have particularly taught me. And I thought, you know what? It really is about the fundamentals. And some of the things that we've been learning for hundreds of years are still at play today. And these are the tools that I want to kind of share with you a little bit about how the brain works and some of the things that keep us from performing at our personal best that you can use. And you can use this in your everyday life. Absolutely, you can use this in the job search. But more importantly, these are things that can change the relationships with your family, with your friends, and with yourself, so that you recognize the greatness that lives within you and you can learn to enjoy this process a bit more, even with the ups and downs that it kind of faces. And as I was reflecting on that, one of my favorite philosophers, Jim Rohn, he actually talked a lot about how it's really important to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I took that really to heart, and especially during this time period right now where you find yourself searching for your next career, whether that's because you're out and just actively doing that because you're seeking a change, or whether or not because circumstances require that now and you need to go find another job. But whatever that is, I would really encourage you to challenge yourself to think about, how can I work harder on myself during this process? Because at the end of the day, that's really what matters. None of us are going to be on our deathbed wishing we had spent more time in meetings or, sending emails or doing some of this work stuff. But we are going to be thinking about, did we make a difference? Did we do the things that we cared about? And that's really what I want to bring to you today, are some of these ideas on how to do that. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Perfect. And let me just make sure I got my chat so I can hear you talking to me. Feel free to put things in chat. I definitely kind of pay attention over there. So why listen to me? Well, as Marcia said, I'm master certified in neurolinguistic programming, which is a study of the subconscious and how it interacts and the difference between it and your conscious brain, and really understanding the patterns that your brain runs and how to change those. If you're ever familiar, like a great example I like to use for neurolinguistic programming for NLP is if you've ever had the spinning wheel of death on your computer, right? And everything kind of freezes and you tend to do the Control-Alt-Delete. combination, right? And you pull up your task manager. And am I the only one who's surprised at how many things were running in the background on that task manager, right? There's like, you think you have like a couple of emails open and maybe a web browser, but there's all these other programs that are running in the background. And you start hitting end task, end task, end task, end task, and all of a sudden your computer runs so much faster. Well, that's exactly what NLP and hypnosis is for the subconscious. It's the Control-Alt-Delete, and it's that end task, end task, end task, so that you can just stop running some of those old patterns that aren't serving you anymore. But in order to be able to do that really effectively, you first have to have awareness. That's what we're going to talk a lot about today. And so along with that NLP, I'm also a master hypnotist. I'm also certified in DISC, as Marcia said. And I do a lot around helping individuals and companies and teams break through behavior change so that they can accomplish their goals and get to where they're going in life. And so in order to do that, what I wanted to talk about today was I wanted to talk about this idea of commitment and how it helps us and how it hurts us. And then attitude, really how that's important, and making sure that we're showing up in the best versions of ourselves. And then that process, what's the process that we need to use in order to be successful in doing this over and over and over again? Because let's be honest, it's not like we just get to do things one time, whoo, it's fixed, it's good. If that were the case, that would be my relationship with the gym. Woohoo, I went to the gym one time, I'm done with that. I wish that were the case, but it's not. Unfortunately, we need to come back and do these things over and over. So we'll talk about what that process looks like. And then lastly, as Marcia said, I'll be here for Q&A, and you guys are more than welcome to ask me as many questions as you like. So commitment, attitude, and process. This is the magical trifecta that I want you to take away today. Really want you to ask yourself, what's my commitment level, what's my attitude, and what's my process as you begin to think about these things, because this is the only way that you can really create change. There's 2 steps to behavior change. Step number 1 is self-awareness. You cannot change what you do not know. And step number 2 is self-regulation. Now that you know, what are you going to do about it? And so these are the tools that you'll be able to, that you will use in order to create that self-awareness and then start to gain some of that self-regulation where you can change some of those behaviors. So first you have to commit, then you have to find the right attitude, and then you need to have a process that you're working. This is the way that it works. So is anybody here familiar with a gentleman by the name of Roger Bannister? Does anybody know who Roger Bannister is? Got a couple of hands raised up there, right? He was the first man to ever break the 4-minute mile. And at the time when he did this, he was an Oxford medical student, and he was an avid runner. And at the time, it was believed to be physically impossible to go faster than the 4-minute mile. Many had tried, everyone had failed. And it was believed that you had to run so fast and you had to get your energy and your heart rate up to such a degree and intensity level that it would physically explode. But Roger Bannister, being that medical student and being an avid runner himself, set out to disprove this belief system. And on May 6th, 1954, he set out and he broke that 4-minute mile, coming in at 3 minutes, 59 seconds and 57 nanoseconds. Like literally, it was like 0.03 that he just broke it by. And when he was out there, he was running and he was making it happen, but his heart was beating, boom, 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 boom. But did it explode? Yes, it did. No, it didn't. I'm teasing. No, it didn't explode. He was able to break through just fine. But did he just walk out there one day and start to do that? Did he just get out on the track and just start running and break the 4-minute mile? No, he didn't. As a matter of fact, it took 2 years and 11 tries in order to do it. And one of the things that he first had to do was he had to commit to that process and know that that's what he wanted to do and where he was going. He then had to have the attitude and the belief system that he could do it and that he could break through. And then he needed to have a process. And his process was that he would have these, what they're called rabbits, which are sprinters that he would run. They would come on every quarter mile and run a lap in front of him, and he would chase after them. And that's how he conditioned himself to be able to actually break through that 4-minute mile. Now, how long do you think it took for the next person? That's right, Larry, he did it in 1954 on May 6th. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry about that, Larry. So he was out there, he was running with everybody and really making sure that he had that process in place to ensure that he could follow through on follow those rabbits and make sure that he could get around every single time and break through. And then that's what I was saying is how many people broke through next? How long did it take, do you think? Did it take, a couple of months, a couple of years? It actually took just a few weeks for the next people to break through. By the end of the first year, close to 38 people had broken it. And today, I think there's something like 1,100 people a month who break the 4-minute mile. So it's something that, again, when you start to think about this, I want you to recognize that it's the belief system that makes all the difference in the world. There are a lot of things and there are a lot of circumstances around you that may be telling you you're not good enough, you're not worthy. There may be some past history that you're bringing to the table that's telling yourself you're not good enough, or that this job isn't the right one for you. And I want to really encourage you that it's those old patterns and those old belief systems that are really keeping you stuck. So one of the things we know about commitment, and I want to spend a little time on commitment, is that it's critically important to your success. Jack Canfield, who was the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, you guys might have heard of him before. He's written quite a few books, especially in the inspirational space. And Jack Canfield has a quote about commitment. He says, 99% is a burden. He might have used a different B word. 99% is a burden, 100% is a breeze. Meaning if you're even just a tiny bit unsure, you've got just your little pinky toe being reserved and hesitating, that you're going to constantly have to reaffirm your commitment over and over again. Think about this. Think about some times in your life where you've decided to lose weight or eat healthy or fit into a new outfit or to do something that was outside of your comfort zone. And if you weren't 100% committed, and by 100% commitment, I mean a non-negotiable, there was no option to fail because it was a non-negotiable, right? That you had committed to persisting until you had hit your goal, because that's how committed you were. And think about the times where you were partially committed versus 100% committed and how different the experience was. I want to put you in the shoes of maybe a future bride, a woman that's getting married, and her fiance, they're getting married. She's thinking about fitting into that wedding dress, right? She's got her date in mind. She's got that dress in mind, and she is committed to fitting in that dress, isn't she? And so she's going to move mountains to make that possible. So every time she opens up the fridge or every time she opens up the cabinet, it's really easy to turn away all the bad stuff because she's got a clear vision and a clear commitment on where she's going and why. But then flash forward past the wedding day, and now we're getting a little bit comfortable and we're back to kind of just the way things always are. Those healthy choices tend to become a lot more difficult because there's no longer that belief and that vision of where you're going and why, and that commitment to that consistent behavior. Without that commitment, you will constantly have to reaffirm and you will have to use your willpower. And I want you to picture when you think of willpower, you think, oh, I'm tough, I can muscle through. And you can for a period of time. I want you to picture a giant elephant and the little rider of an elephant up on top. So it's a person sitting on top of the elephant, right? The elephant is your subconscious brain. And the rider on top is your conscious brain. The elephant, if an elephant decides he wants to go to the right, which way you guys going? You're going to the right, aren't you? And if the elephant then decides he wants to go to the left, which way you going? That's right. Your chances are you're going to the left. Now, unless you're really skilled at that rider and you're able to direct that elephant to whatever direction you want, but after a time period, the strength and the might and the weight of that elephant is going to overpower you. That is exactly the same thing as willpower. Willpower is just you trying to brute force your way through the process. And I promise you, it doesn't last forever. You need to engage the subconscious. You need to engage the elephant in your vision on where you're going. But here's the cool thing about the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't actually know the difference between fact or fiction. It only knows what you tell it. So if you tell it that you're not worthy, it believes you and it acts accordingly. If you tell it that you are worthy and that you have skills that this company really needs, then guess what? It believes you as well. And then you act accordingly. So it's really important that you get your arms wrapped around your belief systems and what you understand to be true, because it's in those subconscious patterns that run in the background, just like that Control-Alt-Delete in that spinning wheel of death example, that are going to keep you from being able to accomplish your goals. And we know from even studying things like flights, and pilots, they talk about how they agree that 1 degree or that one little tick off the course makes all the difference in the world. Would it surprise you guys to know that if I were to take you from LA to JFK, and if we were just 1 degree off the flight plan for that entire flight, you'd land about 40 miles into the Atlantic Ocean. You would overshoot your destination and be in the Atlantic Ocean. And it's just that 1 degree that makes the difference between you showing up on time and being where you need to be safely and needing to use your seat as a flotation device. So I encourage you to really challenge yourself to think about, what is my commitment level right now? Give yourself a score on a scale of 0 to 10. Write it down and circle it and understand more of what that means for you. And then ask yourself, what's it going to take for me to bridge the gap just that little bit more? And really understand, how do I go from 97% to 98% or 98% to 99 or whatever it again is to close that gap. But your goal is to get to that 100%. That 100% creates that commitment and that persistence to see it all the way through to the end. So why do we hold ourselves back though? Like, what's in that? Why do we do this? Well, I want to let you off the hook. This is human nature. Congratulations, if you're human, you have these issues. And so there's a whole neuroscience behind this, why we hold ourselves back, which is it's a safety mechanism. Back in the caveman days, we really did have to be mindful of those berries or those saber-toothed tigers or some of those external influences that truly could eat us and kill us. Today, the threats are not nearly as intense and as external from us. Now, they're mostly right here. What I call the fears between the ears, the stories that we tell ourselves. We don't want to be let down, so we don't necessarily commit all the way. We're like, oh, well, I didn't want that job anyway, so that's okay, right? So that we can let ourselves off the hook. The problem is, though, is that fear of rejection or that fear of failing, or heck, for some of us, it's even the fear of success, keeps us from showing up as our personal best during the interview process. And believe me, you think you might be hiding it or putting on a brave face, I promise you, there's part of your communication that communicates all of that to possible employers, to other people on the team, et cetera. So you want to make sure you're very mindful of those things. And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's easier to say it was not me, it's them. They don't get it. They don't know me well enough. They're just missing out. Well, again, let's reflect on that and talk about what could we have done a little bit differently? How could we have articulated ourselves more clearly and more effectively so that they did get us, so that they did truly see who you are and the capabilities you bring to the table? Sometimes it's just simply hard to admit that another candidate was a better fit, and that's something too, that as we look at that and we reflect on those things, it might help us to determine, do we need another certification? Do we need to add another skill set to our quiver so that we can really show up and deliver in a way that really impresses and demonstrates to future employers that we've got this and we can make this happen? And then lastly, sometimes we just don't want to put in the time and prepare. I can tell you that certainly, when I think about putting myself at risk or being vulnerable out there, sometimes it's just easy to kind of, do as little as I can along the way, because what if I don't get it anyway? Then I will have invested all of this time and will have gotten nothing for it. And I can't, again, stress enough for you that you will gain more by investing in yourself than you will by working on any other things. So the work that you're going to put in on yourself towards this agenda is more than worth it. And you are more than worth it. At the end of the day, it comes down to this, guys, this acronym for fear. And I know you've heard this before in one way, shape, or another, but it's basically false expectations appearing real. That's what fear is. It's the stories that we tell ourselves, right? It's the idea that we're not good enough, and we let the subconscious, again, play these stories and tell us all of these things. Again, the issue, though, is your subconscious does not know the difference between fact or fiction. So it'll just continue to feed you what you're feeding it. So you need to be really mindful of what you're feeding yourself, right? You need to be asking yourself, what is my mindset about hiring, about interviewing, about pursuing a new career? What is important to me? And how does it make me feel? What's really interesting about the mindset is that it really can be as simple as Wayne Dyer suggests. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And I know that it sounds overly simple, and I agree with you. It's not necessarily easy. Yet it is the first step. It is the key to putting you back in the driver's seat of your life and of your destiny. This is exactly where it all begins. All of your actions, all of your emotions are rooted in your belief systems and your mindset, and they pour out from there. They literally are results of the mindset that you have. And so it's not just, oh, it'd be nice to have, it is a must have. What you think and what you believe is so incredibly critical. But change is difficult, isn't it? It can be really hard sometimes. So could I have you guys just real quick for me? Can I have you just let's just test this out and see how change feels, right? We know that change is really important, and but do we always do what's best for us, or do we do what's easiest for ourselves, right? Let's be honest. We all know that it's important to eat a diet full of leafy greens, lean protein, vegetables, but how many of us have knowingly, gleefully, joyfully ingested something that we know is not good for us, right? How many of us can't wait to do it again? Right? Me too. And this is why it's so important to really get your arms wrapped around your mindset and how you think and feel about things. But let me show you how challenging change can be, right? Speaking of arms, can I have you guys just cross your arms for me and just observe, are you right over left or left over right? Just go ahead and cross your arms. I happen to be left over right. Now I want you to switch it for me. Just switch it. Put the other arm on top. Okay. How does that feel? Exactly. Most of us feel a little uncomfortable, right? I remember the first time I did it, I kind of went around in a circle. I'm like, I'm not sure that I can. It just kind of kept going around. But the most important thing is what? You want to go right back to where you were before we started. That comfort zone is screaming for you to get back to the way that you were. And by the way, those patterns that you've been running for years or decades, for some of us, they're going to be pulling on you to come back and think and feel the way that you've always felt before. So I really encourage you that the first step towards this is we've got to get self-awareness. Without awareness, we cannot change what we don't know. So the mindset and our awareness of it will be critical to your success. Now, I want you to ask yourself, are you tuned in to the debate in your head? Are you listening to the conversation that's going around, and are you hearing what is being said back and forth? My goodness, there's sometimes where I've listened to the debate in my head and I have literally laughed out loud, or I've thought to myself, my goodness, if this were me talking to a friend right now, I would be mortified. I would never speak to a friend this way. And the fact that I allow my subconscious to speak to me that way is just highway robbery. There's no reason for it. But again, I can't change what I don't know. So I have to get really tuned in. But here's some tips for you. It's not just about listening to the words. Words are one part of communication. There's two other elements that make up 100% of communication, and that's your body language and your tone of voice. In the chat now, I'm curious, what percentage of communication, if 100% is the three put together, what percentage of communication is words, would you guess? Go ahead and put that into the chat right now. What percentage is words? 8%, 25, 10, 7, 28, 65. Love what you guys guessing, 35. Excellent. You guys are totally online there. Words are a mere 7% of communication. This is where I'm usually, oh, my goodness, because how much time do I invest thinking about what I'm going to say, and very little time investing in how I am going to say it. And so I want you to really take this away and thinking about, oh my goodness, not only what am I saying to myself and to others, but how am I saying it? Because your body is always paying attention. It is always picking up on your tone of voice. So it gets that sarcasm. It gets that body language, those arm crosses, the hand up, the eye rolls, right? It picks up on all of those subtle nuances. And I know you guys know that everybody else does as well. So even again, when you think you're putting on your mask and you're really covering things up, there is so much to your communication that is still coming through that you need to be aware of. And so it's really important that we recognize these things and really make sure that we do that. Can we test this out real quick? Can I just test and see if words really are only 7% of communication? If you can, turn on your cameras for me so that I can see everybody. I want to see your faces. I know we can't mute, but that's okay. But if you can, turn on your cameras. There you go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Can I have everybody just hold up a circle like this for me? Just go ahead and hold up a circle like this. Excellent. And now just go ahead and place it on your chin if you would. Just go ahead and place this right here on your chin. Perfect. On your chin. Yep. Okay. We got here on your chin, right? On your chin. Go ahead and place it right here on your chin. Your chin. Right? Must have said the word chin at least 4 or 5 times, yet a lot of us went to following my body language first. That is how powerful your body language is and how impactful it can be on you and on those around you. So again, I'm going to take you back to your awareness and really challenge you to question, what is my body language? What is my tone of voice? And how am I speaking to myself? And again, this can all be used for other people as well. But really, we're talking about you today, and we're talking about this idea of getting unstuck. And getting unstuck is rooted in this idea of how we're going to believe in ourselves and recognizing our value and our worth and recognizing that we have dreams and goals that are ours, and that we have every right to pursue them with every inch of our being. And this is a piece that's going to continue to hold us back if we don't. So I really encourage you to think about that body language. But I want you to ask yourself these 2 questions. First and foremost, is your mindset helping or hurting you? And you might need to ask this question multiple times a day within multiple scenarios. How is that mindset helping or hurting me? How is this one now helping or hurting me, etc.? And do it over and over again. And then once you answer the question for you, is it helping or is it hurting? I want you to ask the follow-on. How is that serving you? Is it helping you to be more effective? Is it helping you to feel more energized and alive and worthy? Because these are all things that are going to come through when you're interviewing and when you're really trying to demonstrate to other people that you can do this job and that this is your passion and that this is where you're supposed to be. You know, I can imagine that through the job search, because I know from my own experience that I felt a little vulnerable during that time period. I felt as though I'm being put on display and, you know, I'm being paraded around in front of people for them to decide whether or not I'm good enough and I can do what they want me to do, versus me being in the driver's seat of deciding whether or not I want to even work here, or whether or not this position is even where I want to be, or whether or not this company resonates and aligns with my core values and who I want to be and how I want to show up. Again, I want to encourage you. This is the time to really explore what you want. I've been doing coaching and training for over close to 15 years. And I can tell you 99% of the time, the people who come into my office, they can tell me clearly what they don't want, but very few can tell me what they do want. Think about that. Most can tell me what they don't want, but very few can articulate clearly what they do want. And that is what you will need, that clarity around what you do want in order to move forward towards your career and what you're really passionate about. And I'll also tell you that right now there is a process, or there's a theme going on, and it's called the Great Resignation. It's where, you know, there's tons of hiring going on. There's more help wanted signs and windows than ever before. And this is the time in history where you're going to see where employers and companies are much more open to you switching industries than ever before. I know that from my experience with my clients, they are so open to talking to somebody who maybe is coming from another industry who has a great fit for a skill set. They'll teach them the industry stuff. And the same is true conversely, that if you want to stay within the same industry, but you want to switch in a different job role, they're also really open to that, because they'll say, okay, great, they understand the industry, but I can teach them what I need them to know about this new position. Because again, they're really looking for people who embody this humble, hungry, smart, the humility to check their ego at the door and admit when they're wrong, the hungry, that they actually, the desire, the passion, they want to be there, they're going to stick it out over the long haul. And then the smarts, and this is not intellect, this is people smarts. This is the ability to recognize themselves, to recognize others, and to actually self-regulate their own behavior. So this is one of the most amazing times to be doing what you're doing. And if anything, I would love to give you the gift of just loving it and embracing it and getting super excited about the opportunity and what can be as you go through this journey of changing of your career destination, your career path. So this whole idea of putting yourself in the driver's seat, that's what I want you to do. And I really love this cute little dog, so I had to use this picture. But so we start with looking at these three things again, this commitment and this mindset and this process. The commitment is what makes it a non-negotiable. And this is where your persistence comes from. That bullheaded doggedness, that stubborn resolve that you are going to find your perfect fit or else, right? There's like live or die sort of idea on this. And that's where that commitment comes from. Remember, 99% is a burden, 100% is a breeze. Mindset. Rather than having things happen to you, which is the victim mindset. And by the way, with the victim mindset, we have things like blaming, excuses. By the way, as adults, we love to call excuses reasons. So I'll just let you know that one. And then denial, what that was me, oh, that's my fault, right? And this is, again, I want you to picture the acronym there, blame, excuses, denial, bed. Imagine the person in bed throwing the covers over their head, unwilling to come out. Versus above the line behavior with the mindset is the person who makes things happen, the victor mindset, where they have ownership, accountability, and responsibility. The acronym there is OAR, O-A-R. You have your own OAR. You're the captain of your ship. You are in charge. And now I want to take you through the process. Way to observe your thoughts, your emotions, and be able to choose different behaviors so that you can self-regulate, and then you can take new actions to create new outcomes. And then you're just going to rinse, repeat. You're going to do this process over and over and over again. But first things first is I want you to start with the end in mind. This is step number one in your process. I need you to get crystal clear with where you're going and why you're going there. Again, most people can tell me what they don't want. Very few can tell me what they do want. And I want you to think about, how do you want to be known? How do you want to be? What's your legacy? What are you leaving behind? When you think about yourself on your deathbed, and I know that might be a, uncomfortable image, but what are people saying about you at your eulogy? What are they talking about? What difference did you make in their life and in their world? And really thinking about those elements. And so one of the things that I did when I did this exercise is I decided what I wanted people to say that she always just knew what to say. She always just knew when to give me the kick in the tail, when to give me the hug, when to make me laugh. She just always knew what to say. And so because I've had that end in mind, I then have taken classes and courses, and I have sought out specific careers that align with my ability to get better at those outcomes, to leave that legacy in everywhere that I touch so that it really fulfills me and it really, inspires me every morning to get out of bed and do what I do. So the things that I don't work a day in my life because I love what I do every single day. And that's what I want for every single person is I want them to feel that energy and feel that excitement and that joy from getting up and living their highest purpose and living their value set. But it first starts with you getting crystal clear. So ask yourself, what do you want people to say about your eulogy? And then there's another really great exercise that you can do. And it's from Leonardo da Vinci. You may have heard of him. He's a small, philosopher scientist kind of guy. But he talked a lot about, he had an exercise where it was called 100 questions. And he says, get yourself out a timer and give yourself 20 minutes. And pull out as many colored pens or pencils as you can, and you just start writing every single question that comes to your mind. All the different questions that come to your mind, like why is the sky blue? Why do dogs, smell other dogs? Why do, what's going on with, the mafia? What's going on in, just again, whatever, like why do I love crime shows? Again, whatever the questions are that come to you, I want you to write them all down. And anytime you get stuck, I want you to just set down your colored pencil and pick up a new color. There's something about the subconscious, again, between the right brain and the left brain that really engages with this color shift. And so you bring up a new color and you start writing down more questions. And you just keep picking up different colors until you get your 100 questions and you keep powering through. Then after you're done with your 100 questions, I want you to go back through and read them and find the themes. What are the themes that keep popping up for you? This will be another indicator of what really gets you excited and what really gets you passionate. These are the things that you're going to want to look at and find are how is my work and how is my career manifesting and allowing me to spend time understanding some of these things even more. This is what's really important in being able to really follow your goals and follow your dreams on where you want to get to. But again, first you need that clarity. I think it was Randall, who talked to us about right when we kicked off about that focus and that clarity and that attitude. I can't agree with him more. It's incredibly important that you find those in order to be successful with this process. So one of the things that we know in neuroscience is this process that I've called B tier, and it really is sequential. These things don't happen without the other one. It goes in this order. And that is that your beliefs, create your thoughts evoke your emotions compel your actions, and your actions create your results. So if you want new results, you have to go all the way back up to the front and change your belief system. It's incredibly important that you recognize that your belief system drives everything else. Thoughts just don't occur to you. They come from the belief. Let me give you an example. Does anybody else here ever tell themselves they don't have enough time? Am I the only one who thinks I don't have enough time sometimes, right? Yeah, right. We all kind of go through that. I don't have enough time. That's a belief system that I hear quite a bit. Well, then what happens is the thoughts that come from that belief system are, I don't have enough time. I need to hurry. I need to do this quickly. I'm never going to get it all done. All these thoughts that come from the belief that I don't have enough time. Then those thoughts evoke the emotions of overwhelm, stress, anxiety. That overwhelm, stress, anxiety creates actions that include, being snippy with people, running around like a chicken with your head cut off, not doing the best quality work, things of that nature. And then the results are subpar, or at least not what you might have wanted them to be. Or you might have been able to deliver, but then you're so exhausted afterwards because you just spent everything in order to be able to get it across the finish line. What I want to help you to do is reframe that belief. And that's one of the techniques that I want you to understand about the mindset is we have a process called reframing. And this is, again, back to Wayne Dyer's quote, change the way you look at things and the things you look at will change. So by reframing that belief, going from I don't have enough time to I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do. Notice my language there. I didn't say I have all the time to get everything done. I didn't say that. I didn't say I have all the time I need to get everything done on my checklist. No, I said I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do, right? And so that need is going to be incredibly important because your subconscious is listening to this as well. And so what it's going to challenge you to do when you start to say that, I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do, it's going to say, well, what do you need to do then? And it'll really pique your curiosity and challenge you to prioritize in a different way so that not everything is a one, not everything is both important and urgent, that it'll help you to create a little bit of prioritization so that the things that really do need to get done, you can do. And you'll find that if you repeat this mantra to yourself, that it truly does calm your emotions. It really, truly does affect your actions and your results. I literally had this experience one time where I was late getting out the door for a networking event. My son was, I guess, 4 or 5 at the time. He was young. He was still learning how to tie his shoes. And again, I'm running to get out the door, and he's Mom, I need help tying my shoes. And I'm like, oh. And so in my head, I was thinking to myself, I don't have time to help you tie your shoes. And I stopped myself right there because I heard myself say it. I said, no, I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do. And instead of tying his shoes, I even sat down and I taught him how to tie it, loop, loop, wound swoop, right? So like was teaching him that stuff. And I actually timed it and found that it was only a 30-second difference between teaching him how to tie his shoe versus actually doing it for him. And I kept that mantra going on for myself, even after getting his shoe tied and getting out the door. I was still feeling like traffic was going to keep me late. So the whole time on my way, I just kept saying to myself, I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do. I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do. And it allowed me not to drive like a bat out of you-know-what. It allowed me not to, tailgate on people. I didn't find myself getting super angry or agitated. And somehow, by the grace of God, I pulled into that parking lot and I was hurrying again. I slowed myself down. I have all the time I need to do everything I need to do. So I stopped, I checked myself in my mirror, and I went up, and wouldn't you know it, the line was still out the door for the networking event. I was able to walk right up. I was in line. I didn't have to walk in late or be one of those people. And I promise you, it was because I slowed myself down and I allowed the universe to just be and do what I knew it could be, which was it would allow me the grace to have the time to do everything I needed to do. Now I had a choice in that moment, right? I could choose to believe I didn't have enough time and that traffic was going to be bad and that I wasn't going to make it, in which case then my thoughts and emotions and actions would have been very different than they were. And I can tell you, by choosing to believe that I did have the time, I enjoyed myself, I felt better at the networking event, and I didn't expend all that energy trying to, like, with the emotions, because I'm sure you guys also feel how those emotions will generate and affect your adrenal glands and will affect your cortisol and other things that are incredibly important to keep you at a nice homeostasis. And these are the things that we use to help to manage our stress and our overwhelm and all of these tools. And I can imagine, again, during the hiring process, that tends to be some feelings that we get and that tend to come up for ourselves. So for the exercise for you on this one is to jot down, what do I believe to be true about myself? What do I believe to be true about hiring? What do I believe to be true about the interview process? And how is that belief serving you? And what are the thoughts that it's creating? What are the emotions that it's evoking? Because if you can get back up to that belief system and reframe that to a more positive belief, then it'll definitely affect positively your thoughts, emotions, and your actions. And I'll say again, remember, your subconscious does not know the difference between fact or fiction. Henry Ford taught us, if you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. So don't tell yourself that it's not useful to believe that, because it is useful to believe. And that's another little trick that I do for myself when I try to change a belief to something that maybe I don't believe just yet, that I'm in the process of becoming. So I'll change my language to be something along that lines, like, maybe maybe instead of I am worthy, if I'm not comfortable getting to that bold of a statement just yet, I am in the process of becoming. And my subconscious will allow that to be an appropriate way to state that, so that I can continue to develop my skills and to continue to develop my belief system along that same path. And so again, I'll challenge you. What do you believe to be true? How, is it helping you or hurting you? How is it serving you? And then what's useful to believe? What's useful to believe? So preparation is going to be one of these things in the process section. So starting with the end in mind is going to be incredibly important. Managing your mindset, using that belief, thoughts, emotions, actions, results, the B tier process. And now I want you to start doing some preparation. This really helps us to show up as the best versions of ourselves. What does success look like, right? What does that mean for you? How do I want to feel after the interview, after the conversation? How do I want to walk out of that room? Because I promise you, if you write down that word for yourself, or a couple of words of how I want to feel, then when you show up and you think through that intention, you will act and speak and perform accordingly. This is how I help folks to have difficult conversations, how I help them to, really set expectations and to communicate difficult messages, is to think about how you want yourself and the other person to feel. Write down those words and then speak through that intention. The words, the tone, the body language will come as you speak through that intention. Then I want you to think about, what is it that you want to say, and keep it really concise. The 3 to 5 bullet points that really articulate who you are, what you're passionate about, and where you're going. And I also want you to modify these into questions. What are the questions that you need to ask of them that really uncover their value set, that really uncover their organization, so that you can also be in the driver's seat of deciding whether or not this is the right fit for you. Again, this is a rare opportunity to really find your next great fit. And you want to make sure that you are a part of this process, not just, again, allowing them to decide whether they hire you, but you also decide whether or not you're selecting them. What do you know about this opportunity? What else can you do to research it and find out more? Can you go onto LinkedIn and do research? Can you go on to Glassdoor and find out what it's like to work there? Can you see who's connected to other people that work there on LinkedIn and find out if you're connected to them, or reach out? Again, there's lots of due diligence that you can do to truly start to uncover whether or not this opportunity is the right one for you. And then I want you to ask yourself, how do I need to adjust my own communication when you're thinking about what they're going to want to see in order to determine whether or not you're the right fit? Does your communication, again, body language, tone of voice, and words? Does your communication demonstrate that? Does it come off that way? Or does your words misalign with your body language? Do you have kind of a closed off body language or feeling defensive, yet your words try to say, I'm confident and I'm outgoing, but yet there's a misalignment between your body and your words? You really want to make sure that those things are connected, because those are one of the few things that, while an interviewer won't necessarily be able to put their finger on it, they're going to feel the inconsistency. And that feeling of like, I don't know, is what's going to cause them to say, I'm going to pass. So you really want to make sure there's alignment between those two things. And then lastly, the alignment with your goals and values in this opportunity. I can't stress enough that this is really important for you to get to decide that as well. And not every opportunity will match or align with your goals. Again, I promise you, you're not going to be on your deathbed wishing that you had sent more emails or done more of these meetings. You're going to wish you had spent more time, invested more time finding your right spot so that you could truly live your joy every day. And then the last part of the process that I want you to really consider is this debrief and self-reflection, excuse me. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Blue Angels. They're a sight to see. If you haven't seen them, then I highly encourage you to go to an event where you can actually see them fly. And it's absolutely incredible. These gentlemen fly 36 inches apart at 500 miles per hour, oftentimes upside down. 36 inches, by the way, guys, is closer than it is from your head to your feet. So just even think, from your head to your feet, that the tips of these fighter jets are closer than that. You think, oh my goodness, how do they do this? How do they survive? Well, John Foley is one of the commanding officers of the Blue Angels, and actually teaches them and does a lot of talks and things like that. And he was saying that one of their processes is that they have an incredible debrief process and a self-reflection. So much so that it's so critical to their success that they do this religiously and every single time. And he reminds us that, look, we fly for about 5 minutes, but we prepare and reflect and debrief the other, so that's, 5%, the other 95%, they are preparing and they are debriefing. So he talks about the importance of this debrief. And even so much so, they have a process where when they come into the debrief room, everybody takes their wings off, because there's no rank and there's no hierarchy in the debrief room, which basically means I can tell a captain or a senior person where they went wrong and how they might have messed up or some things. I can also feel confident to ask any questions I might need without fear of reprisal or looking dumb. And it's this self-reflection and debrief time that is what keeps them safe and effective. And so he talks at length about this constant and never-ending improvement. And so this is the last piece that I want you to think about, is as you come out of every single interview process, I want you to give yourself a score of 0 to 10. How did I do? 0 was, I barely showed up. That was terrible. A 10 was like, I crushed it. I was confident. I felt great. I'm energized. They walked away feeling that too. And you really kind of recognized and felt that. Right? So give yourself that score. And then I want you to dig a little bit deeper. I want you to ask yourself, what did I like best? What would I have done differently? What do I want to make sure I do again next time? Did I walk away feeling empowered and energized? If not, why or why not? Is that a company and a culture that aligns with my goals? If so, how did I see that? What were some of the tools that they showed me or that demonstrated that to me? How did I see that as I was walking through their environment and making sure that it just wasn't what they were selling me, but that's truly what their organization lives? And so it'll be this reflection process that really gives you all the tools that you need in order to be very effective in the next interaction. And we teach all the time, we have a process called coaching forward. And coaching forward really takes a look at, in contrast to coaching through the rearview mirror, where you come out of a meeting and the manager says, or a partner says, so how do you think that went? And you say, great. And they say, well, yeah, but why didn't you say this? Or why didn't you do that? Or why didn't you do these things? And immediately you start getting defensive, right? Your Wonder Woman arms come out, right? And you're blocking everybody off. But instead, I want you to think about not beating yourself for why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Instead, I want you to coach yourself forward to the next interaction. So Stace, how do I think that went? Well, I'm going to give myself a score of 7.5. Excellent. What did I like best? Here's what I did. What would I have done differently? These are the things. What do I want to make sure I do again next time? So now I'm looking myself forward into that next interaction and getting myself pumped up and excited about that opportunity, as opposed to beating myself up over the last one. Because unfortunately, when we debrief and beat ourselves up, then we carry that baggage with us to the next interaction. And that's what I want you to avoid, is really being able to, shake that all off and be able to learn your lesson, but forget the details. Forget the details of what was said or wasn't said. Take away your lesson and then move forward to that next opportunity. And then, one more question you might be able to ask is, did I effectively articulate my thoughts, goals, and capabilities? What could I have said differently? How could I have done that better? And then you might want to practice and role play that for your next interaction. Most people grossly underestimate by tenfold the amount of time, energy, and effort it takes to become a great communicator. What I thought I was going to say, but what I actually said can oftentimes be two different things. So I highly encourage you to get in front of the mirror, get in front of a partner, and practice what you're going to say and get comfortable saying things out of your mouth. Heck, even this morning, I was up at 7:30 this morning and I was in the mirror and I was practicing these stories in this presentation. I've given these topics for years now, yet I wanted to make sure that the best version of myself showed up on this Saturday morning for you. And so again, I practice every single time. So what we've covered today is, commitment, really understanding that 100% is your goal. Get crystal clear on where you're at. Really identify what's it going to take for me to get to 100%. What's my attitude? How is it serving me? And what's useful to believe? And then the process for actually going through some of these things and really being crystal clear, right, about how that'll work. And so we'll pop into, I'll be available for a little bit of Q&A. But before I do that, are you guys familiar with a gentleman by the name of Monty Roberts? Anybody here familiar with a gentleman named Monty Roberts? Well, Monty Roberts, when he was a young boy, he lived on a horse ranch with his father. And I believe it was in Texas. And his father wasn't very rich. He was actually one of the hands, and he lived in the worker barn in the back or whatever. And Monty wasn't a very great student. He kind of just did enough to get by. But one day, Monty went into high school, I believe it was his sophomore year, and it was his English teacher. She gave him an assignment, and she said, he gave the class an assignment. She said, I want you to go home and I want you to think about what you want to be when you grow up. What do you want to do, and what do you want to accomplish? Well, this project really excited Monty. He got super excited about the idea of kind of creating his future and thinking about where he could want to go. So he runs home and he tells his dad, hey, I got this really awesome assignment. Can you help me? And his dad says, no, sorry, son, I've got a lot of work I need to do. I'll have to help you later. And he says, no problem. So he goes right up to his room and he just starts writing. And it's just pouring out of him. He's got all of these ideas. And Monty decides that he wants to be a horse rancher, that he wants to be world renowned for raising white Arabian horses. And he draws out a layout of the farm that he wants, and he's got the stables and the house and all of this sort of thing. And he writes an entire report around it. And he goes in on Monday and he's super excited and he turns it to a teacher and he's like, here you go. Well, Tuesday comes and she doesn't have him to return. And, he's getting excited. He wants to see his grade and see what she thought. And Wednesday comes and still nothing. And Thursday, still nothing. And Friday, there she is. She's standing in front of the room. She's got the papers in her hand. She's getting ready to hand them out. He's so excited. So as she's walking around, she hands them out and she goes to each student. And as she looks at Monty, she looks at the paper and she looks at him and she says, please come see me. And she turns it down and places it on his desk. And he flips it up like this and it says, F, come see me. Well, he was mortified, right? So he goes charging up at the end of class and he says, what happened? He's like, I'm so sorry what happened. She goes, no, Monty, it's my fault. This is on me. Clearly, I didn't articulate my expectations clearly. What I had said was, I wanted you to come up with a realistic goal. I wanted you to have something that you could realistically accomplish. And let's be honest, you're not the smartest kid in class. Your dad doesn't own the farm. You're not the wealthiest people. It's really unrealistic that you're going to own a horse ranch and raise white Arabian horses. So here's what I'm going to do for you. You can go home and you can have the weekend to rewrite your paper and then come back in on Monday and I'll give you an opportunity for a new grade. Well, he was crushed. So Monty goes home and he tells his dad, he's like, you're not going to believe what happened. I have to redo this assignment. Can you please help me? And his dad's like, I'm sorry, son, I've got, things I need to do. I can't help you right now. And he says, that's okay. So he goes up to his room and he pulls out a sheet of paper and he starts writing and he just crumples it up. He goes to bed on Friday night, Saturday, he pulls out the same thing, pulls out a piece of paper. By Saturday afternoon, you look around and he's got piles of crumpled up paper all on the floor. Sunday comes and goes, and Monday he goes into class and he just decides, Sunday he goes to sleep and he decides, I'm just going to go into class on Monday. And he gets there and the teacher says to him, Monty, I'm excited to see your paper. Are you ready to turn it in? And he says, I've been giving that a lot of thought. I've decided you can keep your grade. I'm going to keep my vision. Flash forward 20 years later, Monty is world renowned for raising white Arabian horses. And as a matter of fact, he has a 4,000-acre ranch and he has got it exactly the way his picture was laid out. The ranch is in the middle, the stables are on the sides. And Monty has now taken to really giving tours of his property. And he especially loves giving tours to high school English classes. And there's one class that's giving a tour and he's walking around and he always ends every tour the way he always does, which is in the great room in front of the big fireplace. And he's telling this exact story about how, he was told to give up on his dream and he's encouraging the kids to do that. And as he says, and I got the F on my paper, and he turns and focuses on above the fireplace and the paper is framed above the fireplace with the giant F on it. And, and he says, so I encourage you all to, pursue your dreams and do you, right? And so everybody claps and they break away. And then there's this little woman in the back who is the teacher for that class. And she comes up and she says, Monty? And he says, yeah. And she says, you probably don't remember me, do you? He says, no, I'm sorry, I don't. And she says, well, my name has changed since then, but I was your teacher. I was the woman who told you not to follow your dreams. And I can't believe that I did that. And I'm so proud of who you've become and what you've done. And it devastates me to think of who I might else have kept from their dreams. Thank you for following your dream and encouraging everybody else to do the same. So I encourage you today to be like Monty Roberts, who you may know as Robert Redford from The Horse Whisperer. It is based on a true story. And I encourage you to follow your inner Monty. Find your dream. Commit to it no matter what. Persist with the attitude that it will be yours in a matter of time, and follow the process to love yourself, to embrace your goals and your vision, to reflect and debrief every single time, and to constantly improve until you realize and recognize the greatness within. That's what I have to say about that. My name is Stacey McKibbin. I run a company called Concilio, and I'm very excited to be here with you today. Thank you guys so much.
Wow. Awesome.
Yay. And then I'll just give a little shameless plug that if you could benefit from a certificate in leadership, management, or sales to boost your career search, or if you could just use to better understand yourself and really understand your own self-limiting beliefs and how to break through them, I'd love to talk with you. So please feel free to email me at stacy@concilioteam.com or give me a call, and I will be happy to talk with you and learn more how we might be able to help. Thank you for the opportunity to present today.
Awesome. And one more big round of applause for Stacey. She has hands, whatever communicates on Zoom. Thank you so much, Stacey. That was really inspirational.
Yay,
We're
thank
looking
you.
forward to having you back in a few minutes for Q&A. There definitely are some questions pending for you.
Perfect.
Between now and then, how does the idea of what we communicate through body language change when you're interviewing over Zoom as opposed to in person?
Yeah, great question. So in person, obviously, there's a lot more ability to be able to just pick up on the nuances of the other person. Whereas in the virtual environment, there's a big disconnect between that. So there's a couple of things that you would want to consider as you're, trying to identify and demonstrate body language in Zoom. So first of all, recognize that on camera, what you want to be moving is forward and back, not side to side. So we often think that, again, we're showing movement and engagement by that, but really you're not. It's the forward and the back movement that's going to show engagement. So you're going to move into the camera to show interest and passion and excitement, and you're going to move back a little bit when you're wanting to slow your pace down or show that you're more relaxed and calm. So that's one of the ways with which you can demonstrate that. The other thing is, as much as possible, hands, the ability to be able to see somebody's hands, it evokes trust. This is why on the red carpet, you rarely ever see men with their suit pictures with their hands in their pockets. It's a huge no-no on the red carpet. The same thing is kind of true here. So if you'll notice, I tried to use my hands quite a bit when I was telling you stories and bringing you in, because again, I wanted you to be able to see my hands. Now, I'm not going to just stand like this and talk for an hour, right? And make sure that you can see my hand. It needs to be strategic and comfortable. So I might bring them back together and set them on my desk. Also, you might not be able to tell, or maybe you can't, I'm actually standing. I'm not sitting. And that is a huge help in being able to project myself and to have that voice of authority and that confidence in my delivery. So standing is huge, which allows me then to just kind of comfortably rest my hands here. But then when I'm ready to talk, I can lean in, I can move forward, I can use my hands. So those are some of the elements there that you would want to consider from a body language perspective. The other thing that you'll need to consider is your camera and your lighting. So if you find that, notice I just turned off my light. Now I'm in a shadow, right? You cannot see my mouth as clearly. You can see my eyes, but not as well as you could when I had myself fully illuminated. So if you really want to make sure that you can, demonstrate your body language, you need to be able to see you really well. So consider your camera, consider your audio, and consider your lighting. And then definitely check those things every single time before you go to that particular meeting. Don't take for granted that just because it worked in the morning, that it will work in the afternoon. Am I the only one that's experienced like it was totally fine and now it's not? And so give yourself that grace of getting on early, making sure that you can still see yourself. By the way, before I even got on this one and used Marsha's Zoom link, I got on my own Zoom link so that I could see how I was projecting. So before I even signed on with you guys, I had already tested myself in my own Zoom environment. So don't think, oh, it's their Zoom link, I can't hop on just yet. But you can still test yourself with your own. So make sure that you can see and hear with all of those things. So those would probably be some of the key elements, I believe, a takeaway. And then just, eye contact as best you can. I know that looking at the camera is challenging sometimes. So, being able to do that for yourself is important. One of the tips that I will use is sometimes I'll take a sticky note and I'll put a little hole in the middle of it so that I put it right around the camera. And then I'm looking at my sticky note and I can look into the hole of that camera. It just kind of helps to draw my eye to where I want it to be. Those would be some of my body language tips.
All right, here's a question. How do we get past the first level interview process with someone who seems uninterested and unable to understand our skills, capabilities, energy, enthusiasm?
So that's a great question. One of the things so first of all, when you think about really being able to influence other people, people love to hear themselves talk. So having some clear questions that you can ask them that get them thinking about what does success look like moving forward? So what does it take to get to the next meeting? What does it take to get to the next interview? What are you looking for that's going to help you to decide whether or not this candidate is the right fit to move forward? Being able to ask questions along that line that are future oriented, that get that interviewer thinking about what does success look like, I think will be critical in helping them to identify even right there in that room with you that these are some of the things that are going to help them to be able to make that decision. I would remind us as well that, again, people always know what they don't want. They very rarely know what they do want. And this is true in the interview process where they see things and they're not sure if they want that or not, but they're also not super clear about what they do want. And so asking those questions like, how will you know when you found the right candidate? What will you see? What will you hear? What would be important for that person to be in order to be successful in moving them forward in the process? What's the next person that's in the interview process? What are they going to be looking for? And what's going to be successful in from their mind. Again, helping them to future orient will help you to be able to be seen as that person. They'll walk out of that interview, go, wow, that person was really insightful, even though they did a lot of the talking. So having some of those clear questions identified helps them to crystallize their thoughts and then align them back to you. They would associate those thoughts and those feelings with you in that conversation.
There was a lot of chat in the chat about power posing. Is it something you recommend?
Oh my gosh, yes, very much so. I do it quite a bit. I did it before I started this presentation. You stand, feet apart underneath your hips, hands on your waist, in the power pose mode. Chin is really important to be up. I try to get into sunshine as well, because if I can absorb some of the light, then I can feel myself filling up that way. And then you give yourself a positive mantra. You start to say yourself, I am awesome. I'm great. I'm a clear articulator. My stories are amazing. My energy comes through, and you start filling yourself up with that love and that light. And you really will feel that energy start to, radiate through you. And then the next step that I do beyond that is if I still have nervous energy in my belly, you can actually turn that into excitement by moving it up to your chest. So nervousness and anxiousness is in your belly, excitement is in your chest. So literally all you need to do is feel the energy in your belly. I just kind of lightly put my hands on it. I feel it, and then I take a deep breath. And then on my next one in, I breathe up really hard, and then I move my hands up. This will physically move the energy from your belly to your chest, and you'll feel yourself go from nervousness to excitement. So between those two activities, I found that to be a very powerful way to then show up as the best version of myself.
One question is, I get the value of a positive mindset, but how do I avoid overdoing it?